Thank you. You heard the voice of God. I performed at the UN. Yes, you know why? Because I don't shy away, because I am an out, proud, pro-Israel Jew. That's right. That's right. This is my third time emceeing this amazing gala, the Stand With Us New York Leaders. Come on, let's hear it. Third time, yes. But what a show I have for you guys tonight. We have such a, this is going to be, this is a show. No, that's the thing. Jews, we don't need adjectives to describe things, right? Other people say, oh, we saw an amazing, hysterical, it was a wonderful show. Not us. Jews say, we saw such a show. Ugh, was this a show? We're the only people who use ugh in a positive way. Right? My parents do that all the time. They're like, we went out for dinner. What a restaurant. Ugh, it was delicious. That was some meal we had. We had some. That's the only adjective that Jews need. We had some meal. Some, right? You missed some wedding. Jews also love to tell other Jews what they missed, right? My parents literally called me like 3 weeks ago, and they were like, you missed some wedding? Ugh, was this a wedding? And you missed it. And I was like, I wasn't invited. And they were like, you think we were invited? That's why I like performing for my people, because you're almost rooting for me to do well. Because the better I do, the more people you get to call and say, you missed some show. Ugh, was this a show? We have to be proud, Jews. We have to be strong. We have to be very strong in this climate, very strong. You know, we have to be Israeli. Am I right? Yes. We have to be Israeli. And I know what you're thinking, but Israelis are Jews. Not really. I mean, sure, technically, obviously, of course, they're Jews. But there is a difference between Israelis and Jews. Okay? Israelis, each and every one of them, gets drafted into the service. Jews, we complain about a draft to the service. Waiter, is there a vent open? I feel something blowing on my shoulder. I would love to see, like, an Israeli guy get into an argument with an Italian guy from the Bronx, you know? It would just be like a fight over who has the problem, right? Like, hey, you got a problem? Me? No, I don't have a problem. You have a problem? Yeah, that's right. I got a problem. You got a freaking problem? Yes, I do. It's you. You're my problem, okay? You're my problem. Oh, yeah? I'm your problem? I'm your problem. That's right. I don't have any other problem. Only you. Oh, yeah? What are you going to do about your problem? You're going to solve it? You got a calculator or something? I don't need a calculator. I do it in my head. 1 minus 1 equals 0. That's what you are. Boom. He wins that, right? He wins that argument. Thank you, people. Thank you. I do. What can I say? I love the Israeli people. Do we have Israelis here tonight, by the way? Oh, my God. I love Shalom, Chaverim, Shalom. I love Israelis. I never know where I stand, though, when I'm talking to an Israeli, because they always sound like they're annoyed. Even when they're happy, even about good things like the weather, they'll be like, it's beautiful outside. I don't believe it. Are you mad that it's nice out? What do you mean mad? It's gorgeous. The sun is shining. Take a look. Well, I don't know. You're yelling at me. Your eyebrows are furrowed. This does not look like happiness. I'm sorry. They're the opposite of people from New Zealand. People from New Zealand always sound happy. You could tell them the worst news. They'd be like, what's that? Emphysema. Is that right? How much time I got left? 6 months. Well, that's about 2 seasons, right? Better than 1 season. Most guys would be dead by the spring. I never know where I stand when I'm talking to an Israeli. It's the weirdest thing, because here's the other thing they do that troubles me. They end every sentence with a question. So they will come over to me after a show and they'll be like, you did funny show. No? What do you mean, no? It wasn't funny? No, this is what I'm saying. The people, they were laughing. Yes? I don't know anymore, actually. I thought they were laughing because you had funny jokes. Why? I didn't ask why. You're asking why. All right, guys, are you ready to start this? I think we've warmed you up sufficiently. Thank you. We're here because we have to continue. We're here because we have to show the world that there is nothing more important to us than Jewish continuity and the survival of the state of Israel. So thank you for being here, and let's just take a look at the screens for some of the work that Stand With Us does. Take a look. Thank you.
You feel the connection deeply. The pride and the people inspire you. You yearn for peace and hope that your children and your grandchildren will love and support Israel. You want to inspire them to care as you do, to protect Israel's future. Do you take for granted that they will know what you know and feel what you feel? Do they know how far we have come, where we've been, where we are going? Will they be inspired and rise to the task? Will they stand tall for Israel? Will they understand never again? Our children on college campuses are being challenged for their support of Israel.
We support the Anti-Father! We support the Anti-Father! Israel is a terrorist state! Israel is a terrorist state!
They attack our children, our communities, your children, your community. Every day requires courage and strength. They are told that they don't belong. And their voices don't matter.
Let's get off our campus now. I've been in this campus for 10 years. Get the off our campus now.
That our history, our nation, our people don't matter.
Zionism must be destroyed. It must be gotten rid of. Every aspect of it.
You want to stand tall, to make a difference, to make sure that our pride shines through, that our children and our neighbors and their children will know what to do, to show a legacy of pride, strength, and peoplehood. This is what Stand With Us does. That is who Stand With Us is. We represent you when you can't be there, with 18 offices around the globe. We represent you in our high schools, where we reach 50,000 students each year with the beauty of Israel and foster the next generation of Zionist leaders. We are your voice on campus, training students how to lead and reach over 100,000 of their peers each year in the face of intolerance and bigotry. We represent you when we reach 100 million people on Facebook during peak weeks. We educate for the future by sponsoring speaking tours and holding conferences around the world, training leaders and lifting communities. We are your hotline when rights are trampled on and emergency pro bono legal services are needed, with over 150 attorneys standing by for students, faculty, and community members. We represent your legacy when we partner with over 750 different organizations around the world who care as you do about Israel. We are working in your name when we use innovative teaching methods to inspire middle schoolers with the wonder of Israel. We represent you when it's time to push back. We represent you when it's time to share Israel's story, when it's time to teach, to stand up, to show undying pride for Israel. And we have only just begun. Help us reach more of the world. Help us empower more of our children, your children, to be courageous, to be confident, to fight smart, to win, and to always, always stand tall.
I want to say that tonight we're celebrating Stand With Us's Leaders of Tomorrow Gala Dinner. And I want to pause for a minute because this title encapsulates who we and what we stand for. First of all, stand. Don't just sit idly by and complain and moan, but do something about it. Stand. And don't just stand. Stand against the hatred, against anti-Semitism, whether it's the classical form or whether it's in modern manifestation of anti-Zionism, we will rise against it. For we know what the purpose of anti-Zionism is: to delegitimize and isolate the Jewish state of Israel. But it's not only against that we stand. We also stand for. We stand for the right of the Jewish people for our self-determination in our homeland, the Jewish state of Israel. And we say so loud and clear. And thirdly, how can we avoid the essence of our being? Our children, our future generations, our leaders of tomorrow, that we empower, inspire, and educate for the benefit of the Jewish people, to make sure that we will have the community leadership that we need, that we will have a strong state of Israel, not only in 2018, but in 2028 and 2038 and 2658. As you saw in the video, we're very proud here at the Northeast region to have over 500 events this past year, reaching over 35,000 students by their peers who speak to them and educate them about Israel. And as you can see, I am not too shy to be proud of all of my team. Let's give them a round of applause. The other thing we pride ourselves at Stand With Us is our ability to do something that some may perceive as not so Jewish. We are actually able to collaborate. We work together with other organizations, Jewish and others, and in the past years, we have partnered with dozens of organizations in the US and across the world to share the message and to make sure that your support will be quadrupled in its effect and its outreach. And thank you for providing us with that support. I also want to mention an important Jewish value of gratitude, hakarat hatuv. This year was a very special year. Many of you remember Captain Elgin Long, the last surviving crew member of Alaska Airlines, who we celebrated in September of 2017 and honored him to say thank you for bringing thousands of Yemenite Jews to Israel, rescuing them from death. A thank you that he had not heard for 70 years before. A thank you that he almost refused to receive, telling me, Shahar, why are you making such a fuss about it? I remember when we held the event for him in New York, I asked him, 91-year-old Elgin, have you been back in Israel since? And Elgin says, no. Would you like to go? I asked him. He said, it's my dream. When would you like to go? He said, Shahar, I'm 91 any minute from now. And indeed, Stand With Us realized the dream, and in March of 2018, sent Elgin to Israel, where he toured for 10 days, and I can assure you that seeing Israel through the eyes of Captain Long, walking through the terminal at Ben Gurion, when he raises a hand to the old photos and says, yes, this is where I landed, but can you believe that from Lida Airport it became the Ben Gurion International Airport, and from welcoming hundreds of people, it is now welcoming millions? You have done well for the people in the state of Israel. And to understand that miracle, and to be able not to take it for granted, was the best gift I could wish for myself and for all of us who love Israel and sometimes fall victim to taking its existence for granted. And that in itself is a value that we pride ourselves in. So we are here. We are here and all over the world to share Israel's incredible story, to support, to empower, and to stand up to all of those who hate us. For we know that these anti-Semites, and we make it clear and loud today, have no chance, stand no chance at bringing us down. Because we have no other choice but continue to live, love, hope, and prosper.
So, 17 years ago, there was no Stand With Us. We had just a need for it, and it was pretty powerful. What we learned 17 years ago is that every organization has its mission statement. And so Stand With Us is a resource for all the other organizations. And every partner that we partner with, we are not competing with anybody. We just want to help. We want to partner. We want to do good things together for the state of Israel and the Jewish people. This is very, very important. So we are very proud of the work that we have done. And when we look at our collective pain and our collective memory and suffering, it's important to recognize that one of the reasons we started this organization was because of the targeting, the very premeditated targeting of Jewish people in the state of Israel. I mean, everybody remembers the Dolphinarium, and you remember Sbarro Pizza and Mike's Place. We remember the buses. I mean, we keep this with us. And it was painful, and it was one of the really huge reasons we started this organization. We wanted to stand with the people of Israel that were suffering from premeditated murder. And we all know and remember all too well, because it still happens, the knife attacks that killed Ari Fuld and also Taylor Force and so many others. And as a Jewish community, we are obligated, we are responsible to do something with our pain, our suffering, our collective memory. We are responsible to do things like the Taylor Force Act. And I just want to give a shout out tonight to a man who was so instrumental in getting the Taylor Force Act. Sander Gerber, are you somewhere? Sander Gerber, thank you. Thank you from all of us for taking pain and suffering and collective memory and doing something with it. And I know the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as my mother used to say in Yiddish, that your daughter, Hannah, has also been doing volunteer work for Stand With Us. Yes, and pro bono legal. So we have 150 pro bono attorneys that work with us, and we have a legal department, and you have been one. Thank you. Thank you so much. So as I said, 17 years ago, there was no Stand With Us. I was minding my own business as a family therapist and minding everybody else's business. And my husband was a genius in marketing, had his own business, very successful. And we realized that there was a need for what we would evolve as Stand With Us. We didn't know exactly what we were going to do. We didn't know that we were going to get involved with social media with such high numbers in the field. We didn't know we were going to be working in campuses and high schools and our legal department. We didn't know. We didn't know that we would now set up a curriculum for middle school children. We didn't know that 17 years ago. Everything has evolved based on the needs that we see in this incredible global organization that we're very, very proud of. But people ask you, they say, what does Stand With Us do? Well, you know what we do. I just mentioned all the things that we do. But the real question is, why do we do it? Why? What is the why? The first reason, the first driver is low information. Low information is such a problem for us because when you have low information, you're susceptible to misinformation. And if there are a whole bunch of people that do not mean well for the state of Israel and Jewish people, and they want to misinform, they look for people that are low information. Little kids are low information. High school students, low information. So our first task is to make sure we push out a tsunami of information through our materials, through media, through videos, through every possible conference and speaker and lecture. Everything that we do is for this reason, the purpose to inform the low information people of all ages and races. We see that as our responsibility. Number two, low inspiration. So studies are showing us that far too many kids are not inspired about Israel. They're not inspired about their own personal connection to the state of Israel. So we see that inspiration as our task, as our responsibility to make sure that an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old is inspired. Because think of yourself. Think of what turns you on, what causes you're involved with. It's because you're personally inspired by something. Now, what happens if that's not there? You don't engage. You might know that Israel was reborn in 1948 and that it's very small and this, but if you're not inspired, you're not going to engage. And we need the future. We need these kids to be inspired, and so that we can guarantee that 20 and 30 years from now, they're going to be sitting here with us, right? And the last thing is what we started with, anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a driver at Stand With Us. We started there. We saw it early. Don't let people tell you you don't know what you're looking at. Don't let people tell you that it doesn't exist or that we're making a big deal, because they said that to us at Stand With Us, and we know better. We hear the whistle. And so I came here from Los Angeles, not that far away, not such a big deal, but I wanted to be with you. I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your partnership. Thank you so much.
You know, when I started with this organization 10 years ago, my oldest son was 8. And for me, this was all just about pro-Israel advocacy. Now, literally in, 9, 10 months, my oldest is going off to college. I know, I look amazing. And so my point is that this is even more meaningful for me right now, because the work that they do on college campuses, there's a lot of bullying. These BSers are very, very strong, and I don't want to see my own kids get bullied, and that's the work that Stand With Us does. So now we're going to meet some of these actual college kids who have been helped by this amazing organization. So presenting tonight's student awards are Stand With Us Northeast Chairman of the Board, Dr. Eric Mandel, and board members Gail Propp and Abby Doft. Also, let's give this is exciting, a round of applause for tonight's recipients of the Leaders of Tomorrow Campus and High School Awards, Neil Dasgupta, Rebecca Stern, and Kayla Grunstein, everybody. Congratulations to our incredible student honorees on all of the work they're doing on behalf of Israel and the Jewish people and their communities. Mazel tov, guys. Well done, well done.
My name is Ziggy Flicker. I'm a TV personality, an author, a public speaker, but most of all, I am my father's daughter. My father, Dr. Mordechai Paldiel, is a Holocaust survivor and a scholar who ran Yad Vashem's Righteous Gentile Division for over 24 years. And while he was there, him and his department are responsible for honoring 18,000 righteous Gentiles, one of them who happens to be a Catholic priest who saved my father and his family in Evian, France. Abele. Toda. You see, I grew up knowing the meaning of history. I'm proud to have been born during the Six-Day War in Jerusalem, and my whole entire childhood was sitting around the Kiddush table where my father would say, oh, story after story about the Jewish people and the history and the Holocaust. And I would turn to him and my mother and say, Lama kol hasipurim haeleh? Lama, why do we need to hear these stories over and over again? And my father would respond, because we shall never forget. A nation that forgets its past has no future. We must carry out our traditions and tell our stories and our history to ensure that it lives forever, while such atrocities never happen again. As we sit here and mourn the horrific act of an anti-Semite who killed 11 innocent angels, screaming and shouting that all Jews need to die, we honor the memory of the dead while committing to the living. Enough is enough. Our message is loud and clear. We will never succumb to anti-Semitism, ever. And how ironic is it that this murderer was put in an ambulance and the man who saved him happened to be a Jewish doctor? And as we speak right now, as he's recuperating in the hospital, he's got a nurse wiping his tuchus, making sure that he has his medicine and giving him his water, who happens to be a Jew and whose father happened to be a rabbi. Even for myself, I was on a national TV show called The Real Housewives of New Jersey, and don't ask me why. And I'm so proud to have been the only Jewish housewife, showing the world what Kiddush was. My father took my kids to the Holocaust Park in Brooklyn. And one day, out of nowhere, a woman who I wasn't getting along with her, which is great for reality TV because they never look for women sitting around the table to have gefilte fish and say, I love you, you're so pretty, I love you. But out of nowhere, the woman looks at me and references Hitler. Hitler shouldn't have killed me. Does that make him a good person? I knew she was targeting me, knowing very well who I am and where I come from. But no fame, fortune, or TV show mattered to me. I knew it was my time to sound the alarm and stand up on a national platform to educate and make it clear that the Holocaust is never, ever, ever, ever to be trivialized or memorialized, ever. There's never a time where you can make fun or bring up Hitler's name unless you're discussing the history of World War II. I made it loud and clear, and I'm happy to say that a lot of people who didn't know what the Holocaust was all over the world now do. Sorry, because I'm nervous. I would like to thank Shahar Azani. And the man is remarkable. When I was going through the lowest point, Shahar Azani and Stand With Us was right there beside me to give me the platform to educate others with the truth of listening to me and sharing my message on social media. And only last month, notorious anti-Semite Louis Farrakhan, who refers to us Jews as termites, was sitting 3 chairs down from former President Clinton. No one said a word. Shh. It's only the Jews. Can you imagine a Klan member doing the same at a major American icon's funeral? Not a peep. How could this be acceptable? Is there no one to stand up for the Jewish people? Well, tonight I'm proud to answer that question, and I'm going to say it loud and proud, because I was born during the Six-Day War, and say yes, yes, yes. We all here are standing for the Jewish people and the one and only democracy in the Middle East, the State of Israel.
Thank you so much for being here to support Stand With Us. Stand With Us is not just one additional Jewish organization in this country. Stand With Us is an organization that is really in the trenches of the war against the delegitimization of the State of Israel, against the delegitimization of the Jewish people, be it in campus, be it in many other places in which this war takes place. And make no mistakes, this is an anti-Semitic war that is intended to delegitimize Israel. Boycotts or divestment on sanctions are only one of the tools they use, but the goal is to delegitimize Israel in order to make possible, God forbid, its annihilation. Therefore, what Stand With Us is doing, waging a counter-attack, a counter-warfare against those anti-Semitic attacks against the right of self-determination of the Jewish people, is nothing less than heroic. Thank you so much, Stand With Us. I want to say the following, share with you the following thought. We are going to mark the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And a lot of leaders all over the globe, in Europe, in America, in Latin America, in many countries, we will hear them saying never again. And we have a responsibility to ask them when they say that. Do you mean that? Do you mean that, or it just became a kind of politically correct, shallow cliche? Because if they mean that, my friends, never again, again is now. Again is now. And the time to take action in order to make sure that it never happens again is right now. And not because we are in Germany of the 30s. No, we are not in Germany of the 30s. We are far from Germany of the 30s. We are not even in Russia or Ukraine of the turn of the previous century, when tens of thousands were massacred, but tens of thousands of Jews were massacred in pogroms. But there is a difference between us and our brethren in those days, in the 30s or in the turn of the century. And the difference is that now we are experienced. And we know exactly, unfortunately, what happens if you do not stop the anti-Semitic beast immediately after it raises its ugly head, immediately after it raises its venomous arms. Therefore, we should call the world international community, including in this country, but not exclusively in this country, to task. When you say never again, mean it and act now. The State of Israel obviously does not have authority to operate outside our own territory. But the fact that we don't have law enforcement authority or educational authority to educational people against bigotry, against anti-Semitism, doesn't mean that we don't have responsibility. And we do have responsibility. For the State of Israel, and saying this as the official representative of the State of Israel, the State of Israel, for us, an anti-Semitic event anywhere in the world, even if it's thousands of miles from our shores, is a domestic issue, is a local issue, and we will treat it that way, and we will meet that responsibility working with all the governments of the world in all levels in order to make sure that the anti-Semitism that is raising its ugly head will be defeated, and defeated now.
Please welcome to the stage tonight's honoree, Barbara Fix, everybody. Let her know.
Dearest friends and dearest supporters of Stand With Us, I stand before you with great humility at this auspicious Leaders of Tomorrow Gala dinner. I am deeply touched and deeply honored not only to be with you tonight, but also to be a continuous part of this incredibly dynamic Stand With Us family that achieves so much for the benefit of our Jewish people. My own Jewish roots run deep. Tonight, I see before me my parents, my father pledging money always, and my mother as we were running from house to house in Johannesburg to gather support for the nascent Jewish state. Our generation is extraordinarily blessed to have Israel. Israel appears to stand strong, but danger looms within and outside of Israel. I do not envy any of the children who are under attack on college campuses. And the horrors of Pittsburgh still shock and reverberate. The nightmare awakens in us an imperative responsibility to our children and to the next generation. Your being here tonight and your generosity towards Stand With Us sends a clear message to those who seek our destruction. We will not bow our heads, nor be silent in the face of hatred. Only with love and tenacity will we stand together as one, staying strong, hopeful, yet resilient. Our Jewish people have survived tragedy, massacres, pogroms, terrorism, genocides, the Holocaust. Not only do we stand together as one, we stand together with the knowledge that we are part of a very rich past and an even richer future for our people. we stand together entrusted with the responsibility of investing in our children, with the responsibility of educating our children, and empowering them with knowledge and especially pride in their heritage. My own children sit at that table. They are here tonight, and I look at you, I pledge my devotion. And I pledge my devotion to all of you, to all of your children and to your grandchildren, to partner with tireless determination and the help of Stand With Us. This will be my legacy.
Thank you to Stand With Us for helping tell Israel's story so well. Your work highlights Israel's achievements in science, technology, business, and culture. You know the importance of buying Israeli products, an economic response to the ugly BDS campaigns around the globe. You understand that Israel's best ambassadors around the world are not only its diplomats, but everyday Israelis, the El Al pilots, the librarians, who constantly make the case for Israel. You know that Israel is not about conflict. Israel is so much more. We need your leadership more than ever. We need it in the face of rising anti-Semitism all over the world. And here at home, we're still reeling from the massacre in Pittsburgh, the most egregious act of anti-Semitic violence in the history of the United States of America. How can this be happening here? How can this sort of evil crawl out in the open in the 21st century? None of us knows all the answers, but I do know that the way to meet this challenge is to confront anti-Semitism wherever it exists. And a part of that is standing up for the U.S.-Israel relationship, no matter who tries to tear it down. In my 30 years in Congress, I've always been a champion of this partnership. We are allies, fellow democracies, and nations of immigrants. And one of the ways that we can strengthen the relationship between the United States and Israel is to strengthen ties between the Jewish communities in the United States and Israel. And all of you in this room are making that happen, and I commend you. I commend you for your incredible efforts in that regard. Many of you in this room have come to Washington, have met with me, have met with your member of Congress to advocate security assistance to Israel, to emphasize the danger of an Iranian nuclear weapon, and to fight against BDS. You've been integral in helping us gather the important support we need to pass important bills to send to the President's desk. In the Foreign Affairs Committee, we closely monitor developments in the Middle East, and I'm deeply concerned about the growing array of threats facing Israel. Recently, I visited Israel's northern border, and as I peered out into Lebanon, I'm sure many of you have done that, I didn't see a single Lebanese flag. It was all Hezbollah territory, plain to see. Hezbollah flags were everywhere. In the 12 years since Israel's last Hezbollah war, that group has amassed more than 100,000 rockets and pointed them at Israel with increasing sophistication, range, and accuracy. Israel, no country, and certainly not Israel, should not have to live under the constant menace that thousands of rockets could again rain down on the Jewish state. I'm very worried about what might happen in the coming months. So we must provide Israel with the support it needs to defend itself, by itself. This includes its defense against missiles and rockets through important cooperative programs like Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow. But we must also provide rhetorical and diplomatic support, standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel in the press, at the UN, and on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. We must also be sure that the United States abides by the Memorandum of Understanding negotiated by Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Obama to provide Israel with the assistance it needs. These days, nothing is guaranteed. We wake up in the morning and the world is turned upside down. But if there's anything I'm sure of, it is that the U.S.-Israel relationship remains strong, no matter who is in power, and the U.S. Embassy belongs in Jerusalem. The lesson is that we must remain vigilant, take nothing for granted, but also know that this relationship is enduring because of the shared values between the U.S. and Israel. It's bigger than any of the personalities in a given time. Israel needs America, and America needs Israel. Now, that's an important slogan about Israel needing America and America needs Israel. And I want to tell you, I've been in Congress 30 years. I haven't worked with many members of Congress who understand that better than my friend Ed Royce. In the years that Ed has been chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I've been ranking member, we've made it a priority in the House of Representatives to make sure support for Israel has remained strong and bipartisan. Working together, we've passed bill after bill after bill aimed at enhancing Israel's security, pushing back against threats posed to Israel, and strengthening the partnership between our countries. Ed has been a tremendous partner on this and so many other issues, but to me, he's also been an extremely good and wonderful friend. With his retirement, he leaves behind big shoes to fill. And Ed, I have it on good authority that the person who succeeds you as chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee will continue the pro-Israel policies you and I have worked so hard to implement. Ed has been a good friend, and I want to tell you there aren't too many Ed Royces who have been there constantly, time and time and time again. Whenever Israel needs help, he's right there in the forefront. Israel remains the #1 U.S. aid recipient, and we will continue to make sure that that continues. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to introduce to you my good friend, Ed Royce.
No, you're right, Eliot. Eliot and I have said for 26 years now, politics should stop at the water's edge when it came to foreign policy. The trick, Eliot, was not just us saying it, it was to get the other members of the committee to say it and to do it. And we were able to do that. And you were a big part of that, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that partnership. I really thank you all, because this is a tremendous honor for me. And I can tell you, I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate to visit Israel many times. And on each of those trips, I have seen firsthand the overwhelming security challenges that Israelis deal with every day, which cemented my understanding of Israel's right to exist and its need to defend itself. These visits have shown me the resilience of the Israeli people. And most of all, they have taught me that the United States and Israel have shared values and shared interests, and through our partnership, we can work together to make both our countries safer and stronger and more prosperous. And I can tell you, in terms of my first visit to Israel, it was 28 years ago. I was in the State Senate. I had authored an anti-terror law, and the focus of that law was an individual who was making threats to bomb synagogues. And the legislation I wrote had defined a terrorist threat as a felony. And that bill was passed, went all the way up to the Supreme Court. It was upheld. It allows law enforcement to take action. As a result of that threat, law enforcement doesn't have to wait until there is an act of terror. That felony has already been committed, and law enforcement can go in and make that arrest. So one of my colleagues invited me on a trip to Israel, and I'll just share with you the irony, because the first day there, I saw my friends get on a bus. We were in Jerusalem, and I was going to meetings, and I turned on the news, and there'd been a bus bombing that day. And I remember going down to the bus stop, waiting for the return because it was on the same line. I remember that sense of dread. And as I stood there, I realized the sense of dread I was feeling there that day is a sense of dread which Israeli families go through over and over again as they hear about a bombing and wonder in that town if who they know, what relative in that town is all right. Now, fortunately, that day when that bus came back, my friends that were on the trip, they were there on the bus. But that meant it was another bus that was bombed. And it meant that on that other bus, those lives were taken, and for some who survived, their lives were permanently and tragically altered because of that terrorist attack. And as you all will know, this is but one of many such threats that Israelis live through, that society endures day in and day out with a devastating ripple effect, because the victims, the families of the victims, the friends, and the country are impacted by this. This is what I mean about the resilience of Israelis. But this is also why we passed the Taylor Force Act, and why we take the stands we do to try to lead in the House of Representatives, and why it is important we speak with one voice, and why it is important that the members of the committee understand that in unity, in speaking with one voice against terror, this is our strength. I saw in a trip I took to Israel in 2006 during the Second Lebanon War, the trip I took in order to meet with IDF and be briefed on counterinsurgency measures. I was in Haifa when Haifa was being rocketed. And I remember the discussions that I had with the press, with the BBC. I'd been down to the trauma hospital at Rambam, and it had been targeted. And I was trying to get the reporter who had done some reporting that I felt was unbalanced to go down and talk to some of the victims I had talked to. There were 600 victims. There were Arab Israelis, Jewish Israelis, Druze Israelis. I said, surely you can do the interviews. She said, I tried. My editor said that it would be biased if I did this. So I called my wife in Jerusalem. She said, take the shrapnel, take the ball bearings, put them in a plastic bag. Go in front of the BBC, go in front of the CNN, and tell them that every day those are raining down. As I explained to the reporters, every single day, with 80,000 ball bearings in every one of these projectiles, these are being fired on families. It looks like a ghost town in Haifa, but there are people hiding in those homes. And out on the ridge, Hezbollah watches with the binoculars, looking for signs of life, and then targeting those families just as they targeted the hospital. That's the reality. That's what Israel is trying to avert. That is why when Eliot Engel authors legislation to support the Iron Dome, it is so important that we help fund this. And it is not just about Israel, my friends. Remember, Israel, in the view of its enemies, is only the little Satan. It's America that's the great Satan, right? And so when Israel manages, for 10 cents on the dollar, according to what a Pentagon engineer told me, it would have cost us to develop it here. And by the way, he added, but of course we wouldn't have done that because we didn't know how to do it. We didn't really know it could be done. When Israel develops that, it now becomes part of the defense arsenal as Israel sells that technology to South Korea and our other allies against terror around the world. I wanted just to share with you another experience I had. I travel a lot with Eliot Engel. One was in one of those terror tunnels, as they call it, dug from Gaza underneath a village, but in this particular case, as we crawled through there, it comes up underneath an elementary school. So Eliot, Engel, and I went on Wolf Blitzer's show together, and we explained the strategy, which obviously was to capture children from that school, take them back into Gaza, and hold them, and force the IDF to fight block by block by block to try to get those children back, while Hamas uses human shields. We passed a resolution in defense of Israel's right to defend itself, but also condemning the leadership in Hamas for using human shields. But it is our experience on the ground, seeing this reality, which has motivated us to try to develop legislation. And as the threats evolve, our capacity to deal with them, and Israel's capacity to deal with them, evolve as well. We are now partners in funding anti-tunnel cooperation with Israel. However, learning about Israel does not only mean appreciating the threats that she faces. It has also taught me the incredible benefits that Israel brings to the world. Israel is a thriving hub of innovation with a robust economy built over the last 70 years through the tireless efforts of its industrious citizens on land that has seen a continuous Jewish presence for over 3,000 years. And Israel is also dedicated to increasing the safety and stability of the Middle East. Through Operation Good Neighbor, Israel provides medical care and supplies to Syrian citizens in distress. They did this all during the Civil War. And Israel assists with the evacuation of hundreds of Syrians, such as the White Helmets, earlier this year. And just a few weeks ago, Israel sent search and rescue helicopters to assist Jordan during a tragic flash flood. But people do not know enough about Israel. It is very important that students understand history and that they understand the complexities of the world today. So I'll conclude by commending again all of you with Stand With Us. You speak openly and passionately and in detail about Israel and the Israeli experience, and how a close partnership with Israel benefits the United States, so that young people learn why movements like BDS are misguided and harmful, not only to Israel, but also to the United States and our interests overseas. That Israel is a true democracy, which very much stands out in the region. That Israel has a thriving economy based on innovation. That there is a historical affinity between our countries and our peoples that date back to Harry Truman's recognition of Israel just hours after Israel declared its independence. That because of this connection, there is a shared understanding which transcends partisanship of the ways in which the U.S.-Israel relationship is mutually beneficial and based on our shared values. And as chairman, it has been my honor to work with Eliot and with all of our committee members and the whole House to preserve and strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. Thank you all again for the work that you do to protect Israel and the United States. And a personal thank you that you get for what you did for an intern who worked in my office when she stood up as student body president at UCLA and opposed BDS. In exchange for that, was targeted and pushed out of her position and thrown before the academic senate on the charge that she could not have been fair because she had taken a trip to Israel, and neither could the vice chairman of the student senate, who was Asian American, by the way, neither could he have been fair because he had been to Israel. And that was their grounds for changing the balance on the board so they could move forward with BDS. She was in a tough position. Her finals were coming. She had to face sort of an academic kangaroo court, if you will, and you were there to help her, and she has never forgotten that, and neither have I. Thank you, Roz, thank you for what you've done. Eric, thank you. Ambassador, thank you very much.
I just want to say, Congressman Royce, your support of Israel and Stand With Us is inspiring, and we thank you, every single person in this room. Thanks you for your support. Congressman Royce, everybody. That was just incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the night. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you next year. Good night. Thank you. Keep supporting Stand With Us and Stand With Israel. Thank you.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double high or more. Simply visit the JBS website at jbstv.org and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please, indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check to JBS, P.O. Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.